You got to leave in my Illuminati hand signal. Anyway,
Went swimming today, and I was doing this breaststroke underwater, of course, right? Swimming. Um, and I was a lifeguard, and I was in the lane that was nearest to the lifeguard, and I was swimming under him. I was like, "Is he looking at me?" Whatever. I just thought it was funny. What if he was looking at me? What if he was looking while I was doing this swimming shit, like every time I swim past? That was in my head so much. I was like, what? Why would he look at me? After the 4th or 5th time I swam, I was like, yeah, he's probably not looking anymore.
Well, I think he was checking you out.
No, I'm just generally just a bit paranoid swimming under someone like back and forth continuously. It's quite like a dancing thing.
It's a lifeguard's job.
He's looking at.
Yeah, I would prefer it if they were looking at me than if they weren't.
Well, if you can't swim, then that's kind of. If you can't swim and you're 3'5", then yeah.
What is a lifeguard meant to do?
Save your life if you're drowning.
And how does he know if you're drowning?
Because there's splashes and people sink and.
Because he has to look in the pool.
What? Well, it's mostly for kids, isn't it? If it's like a little baby that's fallen in, and they go, "Wah, gonna die."
So you'd like him to, you like the lifeguard to clock off when you get there, because you're like,
yeah, I would prefer
swimming.
it.
I don't
like him looking at me. I was getting really paranoid. Like, is he judging my swimming technique? I'm not a very good swimmer.
So I believe you had something to say about the Prestige.
Yeah, I did. All right, here you go. I personally had an amazing time with this movie. I think I would give it a 10. It does have problems, but how good it is, what it does, it is so much better than, like, you could obviously nitpick here and there with Angier not recognizing quite quickly, or at least being surprised as to the Chinese man's dedication to the art, as he's always hunched over and he lives his act, blah blah blah, as Angier is actually living his. With the
quick aside, that magician was real and he was English.
Yeah,
pretending to be Chinese.
He was an Englishman pretending to be Chinese,
and he got shot with a bullet catch. Yeah, he got shot.
So yeah, just with this movie, I had a really, really good time. I think there's like a lot of meta themes that Nolan ties in here, but before I get on to like the sort of deep cuts of what I have to say, I certainly think that this movie definitely plays on a very cynical notion on what it is to create great art, or in Nolan's case, what it is to make a movie, right? So for context, for those of you that are listening, this movie was released between Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. So he was, like, Nolan was probably very, very, very stressed out, right? And within this movie, these magicians, one of them at least, he is constantly stressing himself out as to how the other magician can pull off these feats. And he's obsessing over it for years, decades go by. And then he finally finds a way that he can compete with his opposition's trick. And the way he does it is that he sees Tesla and he builds this cloning machine. And I think it's all just a metaphor, not really to be taken literally. But essentially, Hugh Jackman he clones himself, and the other clone dies every day. So basically, he kills himself.
No, the original dies every day.
I think it's...
Which is crazy.
I think it depends on what you'd say the original is, because their mind, the whole mind is copied over and the whole body is copied. So what's the original, really? Like, he could be teleported.
It's not the clone. He's not teleported. He's recreated over there, and then he drowns himself every night.
It's never made clear in the movie.
It is absolutely made clear that is what is happening. What I just said.
Well, Hugh Jackman, when he's on stage, the clone dies. No, sorry, the original dies. But then when he's doing the practice or the rehearsal, the original lives.
What do you mean?
Because you know how. You know how when he's doing the rehearsal, when he's got the blind man helping him move that box into the other room?
This just doesn't matter. I'm sorry to cut you both off, but this part just doesn't matter to the movie. This is not important. The semantics of how this happens is not important. It is a metaphor for every day when you're trying to create something great, a part of you dies, right? part, because that's that constant slaving away process. Instead of living your life, you're dedicating it all to this art form. That what Nolan is trying to say in this movie is that it's very painful to strive for greatness. And as Angia says at the end, he is the showman. He said that, you know, this is all for the people looking up at you. It's those eyes looking back at you for the audience. And then Borden says, dependently on, you know, what side of the fence you side on, he says, well, it was all, and that was all for nothing, wasn't it? All that sacrifice, all that pain that you went through was all for nothing. And so these are the last few sentences that get said in the movie, and it's incredibly cynical take on what it means to create great art. Is this all for nothing? How does Nolan feel about the work he creates? It really resonated with me, I think, that last bit.
I wonder what Nolan views himself as in terms of those two characters. I guess he's an amalgamation of both, and that's a part of all the duality and the duality upon duality of Borden is also two people, and the one person that those two people are has another counterpart, and then that person has another counterpart.
Even Tesla has a rival in this movie.
The reading I had on that whole the teleportation subplot was Borden is truly uniquely capable of that trick, and that is just an unsatisfying answer for Hugh Jackman. And so he spends all this money, and it's probably capitalism metaphor here, to like recreate and mass produce a thing that one person is uniquely good at because of the circumstances of their birth and upbringing and mindset, dedication.
Wait, so I'm a bit confused. You're saying that Hugh Jackman's character is...
He's sort of the capitalism side. Yeah, well, because he is. Yeah, he's Lord Caldwell, blah, 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 whatever his name is. Lord... Does anyone know it?
And then, are you saying that, what's he called? Christian Bale's character is like the entrepreneur who comes from nothing?
I wouldn't say he's an entrepreneur. He's the more like legitimate artist, in my interpretation. Because yeah, I mean it's got a line about him coming from the workhouse, and his whole ideology is about creating innovating the trick and doing something truly impressive. And Hugh Jackman's ideology is, I want everyone to look at me and love me and scream, and I want to blow people's mind.
Just before we move on to the next movie or the next topic, I just wanted to add like another one of my little meta takes for the movie too, which actually just slipped out of my mind. Oh no, here we go. So I think obviously the movie is all about trickery, it's about deception. And one moment in the movie, so Borden's wife is shown a trick by Christian Bale. Borden, I don't know why I did that. And he basically reveals the trick to her because I think she sort of just demands it. She's like, just show me how it's done, which I think is really funny. And he shows her how this, just a small sort of sleight of hand magic trick is done in front of her. And then she says, oh wow, once you know...
Is it the bullet catch?
Yes, it's the bullet catch scene, yeah. She says, once you know how the trick is done, it's actually fairly obvious. And so it's really interesting that, because these sort of incredibly banal tricks, for instance, how the bird trick where the cage collapses and it kills the bird, but he's got another bird in his hand. It's a very banal trick. It's a very sort of low IQ sort of thing to do. It's not a very good magic trick, is it? It's not good trickery. But what Nolan does in this movie with that exact line, once that reveal comes, everything is so obvious and I'm not impressed. But the beauty of this film is that when the reveals come in the end, and when the reveals do come, the continual plot twist, that's the uptick of the movie. That's the prestige. The reveal is the prestige of the prestige. Like, that's just so cool to me. I really like that.
I think something else to like about that scene is the fact that his wife, Sarah, is unimpressed. And she said, well, it's all pretty obvious, isn't it? And I like the fact that he stands there and says, well, some people would die over this. And in a similar way, people do literally die over the trick that the two of them. People die in the trick that Hugh Jackman ends up doing, but the curiosity of the double obviously ends up getting him killed as well. But I think there's something else I like about this film. It's the fact that every single scene is laden with the foreshadows.
Oh, the foreshadowing was insane in this movie. The whole collapsible cage bird trick foreshadows Angier's. Everything is set up from start to finish. The whole bloody movie is perfect. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was a masterpiece, 10 out of 10.
And I love when Angier said, "Oh, I thought you said I might have to get my hands dirty." Well, one day you will. Or one day you might have to get your hands dirty. And it's all those little things. I really like how it all fits together. Even, but I think what's so good about it is that it doesn't feel forced at any point because it all helps progress the story. But it's just a nice little sprinkle every now and then where they drop various lines and point various things out. And that's one reason why I think this is one of Nolan's best films, because it just works so well together as a unit.
So far, I think this is just incredible. I think it's his best movie. I've seen all his movies, well, except for Following and Insomnia. But out of everything I've seen, I love this. Like the margin that I prefer this to all his others. Like this is first, and then second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth is all empty, and then everything else is seventh. Like this is miles above anything I've seen him do. Just like the acting is good, the themes are good, the style is perfect, the narrative is good. It's just this perfect thing, right? And I have I could go honestly. I had a call with Matt maybe last night or the night before, just talking about all of my theories and meta takes on The Prestige, and I have literally 2,000 words in front of me here, but maybe we'll just have to talk about it in some sort of bonus episode. I have talk about a little spiel that I was going to go on about identity and reality as fluid concepts, because Borden's split identity and Angier's clones are two versions of fragmented selfhood, and there's a whole thing on that. And then technology is an extension of the obsession of human art. There's there's so much in this movie that just fits really well with lots of narratives, and he tries to do a lot, and to be honest, he does do a lot for me. And he doesn't he has usually got these incredibly bad exposition problems, but the exposition in this movie is him sort of revealing his trick. And
I was going to say, I thought the exposition worked really well. It didn't feel forced, unlike, say, moments in, Inception or Interstellar for me. Well, no, I said those two. Tenet is easily the worst one when it comes to exposition. But this one, I thought the exposition went really, really well.
That is my one negative against it. It's not so bad, but at the end, I was like, it really is fucking hammering this home. And especially when they replay the Michael Caine a trick goes 3 bloody stages. I was like, yeah, we fucking get it by now. I don't like it. I don't really like it when it flashes back to a scene while it's telling you what's going on. And it's like, remember.
We see, I much prefer the fact they did a flashback, so that the fact that Christian Bale's character just said, I was Fallon was me, and he just says that, and he shows you a flashback, and it shows you the two of them really committing to the double act, and I much prefer that than him just giving a line and just leaving it there, or him elaborating it further. And I like the fact you've got these long pauses, and during these long pauses,
the one I'm thinking of is when it replays his wife being like, "Oh, it's still bleeding, your bloody fingers." And I'm just like, yeah, fucking, we get it, man.
Yeah, but that is Nolan. But I think he loves to obviously hammer home the concept, so every single person in the audience gets it, no matter how stupid or young you are. But again, in this movie, he's explaining the magic trick. It just works. All of his little habits just come together in this movie. So I don't know. Yeah.
It is the most Nolan movie, and it is the best one for it.
Yeah, I agree. It's a very Nolan movie, this Nolan movie.
That's interesting you say that, because the most Nolan movie I think that's out there is either Memento or Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer, no way. I was shocked by Oppenheimer. Yeah, he's never touched anything like that.
I have a feeling I'm going to come around so hard on Oppenheimer when I see it again.
Really? I think I'm actually going to be even more bored by it.
I'm on the record for hating that movie in these podcasts, I think, and I know I'm gonna come around on it because I know how, yeah. But also, I was just gonna quickly say, just on a more surface level, I like the narrative of two rival magicians just that hate each other viciously, and attacking each other on stage doing their tricks. I just think that's like a really cool little premise. Yeah. War of the Magicians. I think that's funny. Anyways. Do we have anything more to add to the Prestige, either of you two?
I don't know. Ben, did you have any readings on it, like more metaphorical, more like themes? Like, what did you get from it in that sense?
Well, I think it's more of a warning against ambition. So, you know how you were saying, Haroon, that you think it's a metaphor for filmmaking? I think it can be a metaphor for that, but I think more broadly it's about anybody with ambition and the fact that at the end of the day you can't take shortcuts in order to be successful. You've actually got to put in the work. And I thought I think something else that I quite liked about this was the fact that the difference between, well, the difference I thought there was until Matt revealed that actually he was Lord Caldwell all along, but let's just ignore that. The difference between the two of them was the fact that Borden fully integrates his life with his work, whereas in the case of Mr. Angier, he tries to keep them separate. He goes onto the stage, he'll do his magic trick, he'll impress those people, but he doesn't. When he comes home at night, it's not as if the whole issue bothers him all that much. I mean, it does bother him. It plays in his mind. He's always hoping to find ways to innovate, but it's not something that's fully integrated into his life. Whereas in the case of Borden, like, it is fully integrated to such an extent where it's really damaging to his relationship with his wife, because as we see, she can always tell, no, this isn't actually you, this is somebody else who's talking to me. And as a result, his double can't live a full life either when he's with Scarlett Johansson. And yeah, I thought more broadly it was just to take on the costs of being ambitious, or really, I think for this particular film, the costs of being obsessed. And it'll be interesting to see, because Christopher Nolan is, I think, like many directors, pretty obsessive. And you hear the stories about the fact that he doesn't own a smartphone because he wants to make sure that he's always able to remain fully focused.
It's a very personal movie. It's a very personal movie for Nolan.
Yeah, probably his most. Well, probably. Well, Interstellar, to be fair.
I think Interstellar is definitely the most emotional. Like, Interstellar was an emotional roller coaster, and I can only imagine what that's like being in the cinema watching it. I thought that this one was pretty touching and charming.
He, as a director, he's away from his kids a lot.
Well, the issue of him being, or the relationship between adults and kids in his films is interesting, because I think I remember reading somewhere that I can't remember who it was. It was either his mother or father who lived in the States, and they wouldn't actually see each other for long periods of time. And so he'd have to spend a very long time. I think he was at boarding school as well. So he'd be at boarding school away from his family for a long time, and then in order for him to actually get back, so in order for him to get back, he'd have to travel very long distance.
Monster.
Should we move on?
Yes, let's move on.
Yeah, let's do FFake first. Can I take another piss break? Sorry, guys.
Of course.
My blood is crazy. I'll be quick.
Did you watch FFake in the end, Haroon? What did you think of it?
I did.
It's a bit of a warm-up.
I'll wait until Matt gets back, until I give the little reveal, but bloody hell, I think it was a bit boring, man. This one was a little bit boring for me.
I'm so glad that we agree on the Prestige, we agree on FFake, and we're going to agree on Eyes Wide Shut. This is going to be a great episode.
Our best podcast together.
Haroon, I fucking hated it. It was awful.
Jesus.
Yeah.
It was a tough watch. It was really... Yeah. It rewards you a lot if you're attentive, because there are some interesting things, and the reason it was selected is because of all of the meta commentary that was present within the Prestige and what Nolan did with that. And Prestige is like, there's lots and lots of layers of thematically of what's going on, and lots of what you can get from it. It's far beyond just the narrative. And F is for Fake.
Guys, I heard all of that. So we're going to touch briefly on F is for Fake, but we will focus mostly on Eyes Wide Shut. I picked it after some more research because One, I was unhappy that it was given to us by a robot at the end of the last episode, Eyes Wide Shut, and two, it's not a and two, Eyes Wide Shut is not. It is a mainstream pick, and so it doesn't really work for the concept of broadening our tastes.
I was broadened. I watched a new movie.
There's a lot of broads in it, I'll tell you that much.
I'm going to broaden myself with an extra cookie right now.
But yeah, so I saw that it was a documentary slash fiction, which I thought was interesting, and it mentioned, fakery, fraud, magic, and meta commentary for filmmaking. So I was like, this sounds perfect. That being said, I don't have too much to say on it. I did enjoy it. I just overheard these guys say they hated it. Well, Hurricane seems to be somewhere more in the middle.
I didn't hate it. I'm more neutral
Yeah.
towards it. I was bored though. I was so
Yeah,
bored. Oh my god.
It's a bit slow. Well, it's a bit boring, I suppose. To be fair, I wasn't bored the first time around, but I did rewatch it again today. Only an hour of it because I got busy. But yeah, it's not so attention grabbing in that way. But I did find it so incredibly charming, and Orson Welles is such a fucking weird freak of a man with probably the best voice ever, I would say. What a fucking voice.
He'd have a great podcast voice. We should bring Orson Welles back from the dead and make this Gateway Cinema triplet, a quadruplet with a resurrected Orson Welles.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess these guys hated it, so let's get into that.
I didn't hate it. I just thought I really like that you found something whereby there was a really cool overlap, I think, with the Prestige.
Really?
Yeah, it would make sense because how would we sort of explain this though?
Yeah, so there was this art forger, and he was getting a biography written by this guy, Irving. I can't remember his first name. And they were making this documentary about it, and then Irving got himself involved in this whole scandal where he was faking a biography for some reclusive billionaire. And it all ties together through Orson Welles doing a sort of artistic vlog about the nature of reality and art, and what makes something real art, what makes it fake, and the line between the two. Which is crazy for the Prestige, because it's about the same thing.
Orson Welles made a documentary about fake art and then made the documentary a fiction. So, big whole meta commentary. Christopher Nolan made a movie about filmmaking, about magic.
And about trickery, and the trickery of art and filmmaking, and the inherent fakeness of it.
Yeah.
So Ben, why'd you hate the fuck out of this film?
Yeah, so like I said, I'll steel man it because I did go into this film feeling incredibly tired, so tired that I literally couldn't stop myself from falling asleep. So I had a break, ended up sleeping for something like an hour and a half, and it was getting late, but I knew that I wanted to finish it before today because I already had the Prestige to watch. So I thought I'd finish it in the second sitting in the same evening. And yeah, I had about an hour left, and I was still...
You're only half an hour in when you gave up for the first time.
Yeah, it was just so... The problem I had was that I just found that it didn't really stick with any one line of argument. So I think they might cover something and maybe touch on something briefly. So I think, what was the name of the guy again? The forger? Elmire. Yeah, so they talked to Elmire about, his work and, is his work art and is it as good as the other paintings, because it's in the gallery and nobody notices, despite these alleged experts reviewing the paintings and not actually being able to tell a forgery from the actual one. I thought they were actually getting in some really interesting discussions there. But then they'd go on these big tangents about things that I thought were completely irrelevant to the actual argument. And they seemed to focus more on the people but I didn't find the people themselves that interesting. And I think if there's one word that I can use to describe this documentary, I think it is pretentious.
It's definitely pretentious.
Yeah, because I just found the way people were talking, the lengths of their sentences, I just thought, why are you speaking at this length? Why aren't you just trying to condense what it is you're trying to say? Because I reckon the actual content they covered in this documentary could have been covered in, I don't know, 2/3 of the time maybe. I just felt like there was so much shoe leather. They took their time with a lot of things, and you guys spoke about how much you liked Orson Welles' voice. I like his voice, but my god, that guy needs to condense his language. I just found myself becoming really bored. Just it really did not grab my attention one bit. And yeah, they touched on some interesting things, and I thought, oh, this is interesting, and then they sort of just fleeted away. Like, I wish they actually spoke more about this issue of Emil doing the forgeries. Are his forgeries art? Why they art or why they not art? I just thought they'd make a claim and then sort of abandon it, and then maybe come back to it later on, and not really go into too much depth, which I was pretty disappointed by personally. And yeah, it was ironically the shortest thing we watched for this episode, but God, it felt like the longest by far.
Like I said, I think the movie definitely rewards attentive viewing, and it obviously is very pretentious. I don't know. I think the word pretentious, whilst we're literally doing a podcast about movies, we could throw that in anywhere, really, couldn't we?
Yeah, I don't like pretentious as a criticism, but it also can be definitely descriptive. But you can be pretentious, man. Whatever. Things can be pretentious, in my opinion. Especially Orson Welles. I think he's earned the right to be a bit pretentious.
But I think when you're doing a documentary, I think the whole point of it is that you're trying to, well, you should be, I think, dealing with a topic.
This is not a pure documentary in the slightest.
Yeah, he was saying he was inventing, like, while he was making it, he was like, this is a new art form, which it is. And it sort of is more...
Yeah, you shouldn't look at this as a documentary at all. This is a weird, like, subgenre of a subgenre thing that exists,
It's just a contemplation on art.
But here's the thing: like, did you think you actually learned anything? Because I left this and thought I didn't learn a single thing. Like, they didn't actually address.
There are so many really good lines in this movie where, for instance, the artist is like, there are only two kinds of art: fake art and people who can't tell, or art where you can't tell
No,
it's fake.
he
What does he say?
yeah.
What's
He
that
says
line? What's that crazy line?
He says something like, the question isn't is it real or is it fake? It's is it a good fake or a bad fake?
Yes, exactly.
And he later says
that's the whole movie, really. That's the whole theme of the movie for me.
So what are they arguing? Are they saying that all artwork is fake, and the question is if it's good or bad?
Here, I'll do something here. So I think for what struck this chord with me with regards to Nolan movies is, if you remember Cillian Murphy in Inception and our interpretation as to whether or not he represents the audience, and does Leonardo DiCaprio's team convince him through sort of facile emotional manipulation that he is in fact that he can be sold this narrative, that he can buy it emotionally and fall for it, right? And as an audience, when watching any movies, is that veil ever pulled back, or are we all nicely satisfied in the illusion of the art itself?
it works so well for The Prestige, man.
It's fantastic for The Prestige. I see why you picked it. But do you sort of get why I'm...
Just break that down. Just break that down a bit more, because I think you just covered a fair bit there. So you're talking about... Just go back to that point about the illusion. You said there are two alternatives with Cillian Murphy's character.
So Cillian Murphy's character, we talked about it in the episode, but there's an interpretation, and it's kind of clear that Nolan's sort of making it seem this way, because obviously Cobb's the director, and there's the actor and the producer, and then Ken Watanabe's the Hollywood studio itself, and then Cillian Murphy represents the audience, right? right? He represents us in a movie, whilst these characters.
And this is if we're going with the film analogy for Inception.
This is if we're going with our interpretation of that movie, the one we're talking about now. On that interpretation, does the audience really emotionally buy a movie, yes or no? And that is basically what F is a Fake is kind of about, is can you, it's Matt, take over.
So, okay. Ben, you need to read about postmodernism for one. You should get those books that I told you to get about, because it's all about how art
On
inherently...
semiotics, right?
Yeah. And yeah, there's probably other ones. I'll try to send you more. Art is inherently always fake, including documentaries, because it's the selection of what to show you. And a sort of a side point, when we go into movies, what's it called? The suspension of disbelief is fundamentally important. And everything we see is fake, but we treat it as if it's real because that's what you do.
Otherwise, you wouldn't enjoy the film. You'd just be like, oh, they're not going up into space. He doesn't really have a daughter. That's Matthew McConaughey. There's someone behind the camera. Exactly. Do we buy the movie? You know?
You have to take it on, and
suspension of disbelief.
Yeah,
fundamentally,
I think the issue I take is the idea that it's fake, because I understand that films aren't real in the sense that you watch Interstellar and that didn't actually happen. But
it gives you something, like in Inception, Cillian Murphy's character got a fake reconciliation with his father, and that's sort of the point, is the facade of it all, but it's still real for him. And so, yeah, F is for Fake. It sort of reflects on fucking... Orson Welles is such a perfect person to do it as well, because he got famous doing the War of the Worlds thing, which was a broadcast which was perceived as real by a lot of people.
Oh my god, I know about this.
He talks about it in the movie. Yeah. He talks about it in the movie.
Oh god. Yeah, sorry. But I swear I knew it outside the movie.
Yeah, it's a famous story. He did a radio broadcast of War of the Worlds about aliens coming down, and allegedly, although this is probably hyperbole, even in the film, it's a bunch of fake stuff in the film about it. People went crazy, thought it was real, but it's like a good story, and that itself is fake. But that is also I don't know how to explain that. Films are fake. He's contemplating his own fakery. Art.
But I think there's a fundamental difference between what they're doing with Cillian Murphy and an audience member, because it's not as if I go into a theatre or anybody else does and they watch a film and they think, oh, I think that was real. Whereas with Cillian Murphy, they're literally fakely implanting a memory.
Yeah, but do you not watch a film and it gives you some sort of philosophy to come out of it with, or something that connects in your own personal life, where you're like, oh, I've got an answer for this thing now because of this art?
Oh, yeah, it can...
And that's what happens to Cillian Murphy in the film, and thus it's a metaphor for us as an audience.
Right.
Oh, come
Makes
on. You've got
No,
this.
I'm getting... It's I understand what it is you're saying. It's just that I think it's interesting to use the word fake, because it makes it sound like it's fraudulent. And I don't think that's the essential of art.
But it is fake.
Yeah, it's fake in the sense that it's fictional.
He's saying, Orson Welles, he is a filmmaker. He's making this from the point of somebody that creates all of this. His perspective is about his perspective. It's not about what's true and what isn't. This is just like a debate. It's an opinion, right? Does this feel really fake? Obviously it's a strong word, fake, isn't it, for a piece of art? But when you're sort of delivering these sort of implanting emotions into an audience member's mind that didn't happen on the screen and never did happen, and you made it up, and somebody storyboarded it, and cinematographers came in, and actors played the part, right? You're making this whole fiction up, literally, for somebody to believe it to be real. And so the person that creates all this fantasy, he's contemplating whether or not, is this all just fake? It is, and it isn't. And it works and it doesn't. But when it doesn't, it's fake. And when it works, it's not.
But my question is, why the use of these particular words? Because when I hear people use things like facade, fake, it just has a really cynical edge to it.
Um, is it true? Yes or no? Is a film true?
It's not true, but for example, one
Then
way
what
you
is
could frame
it?
that is it's a selective recreation of reality in accordance with the artist, rather than say
Yeah,
it's just
there is a
fake.
middle
Like
ground.
the,
There is a
Well,
middle
this
ground.
is
Inception
the issue
isn't
I'm
a
having.
selective recreation of reality. That's entirely made up.
Well, no, it's a
So I'm
selective
talking
recreation of reality in the
fiction
sense that you
and
have humans in a world that we know. Yes, they have dream technology, but the point being that you actually do have humans, buildings, like various things. Like, do you see what I mean though when it comes to the use of the term
I
fake?
suppose you have to sort of restrict this exclusively to this documentary, arguably. The commentary as to what's real and what's fake. We've got to talk about it exclusively from where Orson Welles is coming from, rather than do you think Inception's real? Do you think this is real? Like, Orson Welles has created a new thing with this movie. It's a meta commentary on art rather than documentary, and he layers fiction into reality, and so it's not a documentary, and so it is a fake documentary. And sorry, Matt, you were saying something.
no, I wasn't. You were doing well. Um, but anyway, we should move on because we've got this other 2 hour 40 minute movie to talk about. But anyway, I want to read this one quote because it's the only thing I wrote down about any of these films. I really liked the line. I must say, I lost my faith in the concept of expertise. Because, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you both about this because, um, obviously, if you've got somebody who claims to be an expert in painting and they can't tell the real one from the fake, then yeah, and if especially if they're acting as if they do know what they're talking about and they clearly don't, then yeah, clearly that expertise, that expert shouldn't really be regarded as highly.
Could you say the line again, please? Sorry to interrupt you, Ben.
So it's after he's talked about going into two different art galleries, telling one of them it was real, one of them it was fake, and they both said yes, of course, basically to whatever he said it was. And he says, "I must say, I lost my faith in the concept of expertise."
So with that quote in mind, I want to ask you both, but I guess I also want to hear your take on a bit more, Matt, given that you studied for 3 years under experts uh, teaching in film. But I want to hear both of your takes on this. What are your takes on just film critics in general with that quote in mind?
I think that you have to approach it with a certain mindset, um, because no one it, art is so subjective that you can't just take anyone's word for fact. So I find value in it. Obviously, we're doing a film reviewing podcast right now. I obviously think it's valid and cool, and I like it more as to view people's interpretation rather than is a film good or bad. Obviously, there's objectively bad films. I do think like Free Guy, which is my number one example of a terrible movie.
Yeah, I would look forward to getting your opinion on that one day.
For exclusive you two, it's an interesting topic of conversation between how Matt likes to watch certain movies that have they're a completely open interpretation, and thus you can listen to lots of different critics say lots of different things and have lots of different all valid opinions about one particular movie. But Ben, you really don't like an open ending. You really don't like an open-ended movie. You want something to have a nail and hammers all the way through, so that there is a constructive narrative that you can follow, enjoy, and it's all wrapped up. So I personally feel that you're very different people.
Yeah, because what I find in movie critics is, I think so. Take someone like Mark Commode. So I really like Mark Commode. I don't always agree with everything he has to say, but I regard him as a overall like good critic. I mean, one, because I think he's a popular critic, so he actually what part of his job is actually communicating his thoughts on the films to the general layman, which I would definitely consider myself when it comes to film, and I think he does that very very well. But I think what I like about it as well is that I find that his explanations for the films are rarely completely out there. Sometimes he'll say things about films I think, oh, that seems like a really bizarre interpretation. But a lot of the time I think, oh yeah, I can see why he said that about a film. But do you two ever find that when you read a film interpretation, it does make you think like, how on earth did you get there? And I don't mean an interpretation that you read and and after you actually digest it, you think, oh yeah, that makes sense. I see how you got there, but I never thought of it myself. I'm talking about ones that are completely out there that you simply never would have thought of in a million years.
The Nerd Writer has some theories about movies that I think are genuinely kind of out there, but it's like when you say
The
out
Nerd
there,
Writer, who's that?
yeah, he's very. I think he's supposed to be quite a famous YouTuber. I thought you would have heard of him. He's a
Yeah,
famous
I've
film
heard of
critic guy.
him. I've probably seen some things. Can I tell you about
you
Travis
got-
Bean?
Did he talk about Travis Bean, or Travis Bean spoke about Nerd Writer?
No, I just want to bring it up. No. I just want to bring it up as a guy who has out there theories. Mr. Bean. Yeah, he's just a crazy guy, and I think he's like a film critic. He used to do a podcast about Kanye West, which is how I found him. Until uh, stuff happened. Anyway, Travis Bean has these crazy theories, or like he just has the craziest takes every time. Like one of his favorite films is Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2. And another one of his favorite films is Terrifier 2, and he thinks Terrifier 2 is a legitimate commentary on artistry and the nature of it. He thinks it's this really, 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 really deep film that he holds genuinely as 5-star and has watched like 13 times. And it's just a gory clown movie.
I feel the same way about The Prestige. Genuinely,
But that has more to it.
I know, but to how other people seem to view The Prestige, I have 2,000. I could write an essay on this movie. That's how much I thoroughly loved it. And you were asking, Ben, about movie critics, and what came to my mind quite quickly was this one guy who I think it's called, like, it took me 15 years to understand The Prestige. It's very like clickbaity titles, but you watch the video, and basically he thinks that The Prestige, or his interpretation was that technology doesn't demystify culture, but it mystifies it even more. Like the bringing in Tesla's machines basically into the movie is sort of more of a testament to real magic, as Hugh Jackman says, rather than sort of commentary on the time, especially like early 20th century. The sentiment was, with all of these new technologies coming in, we're like kind of losing the magic of what we think of the world. For instance, like with telescopes being able to stand our position around the sun, being connected with the world, like there's not much mysticism really on the face of it. But that was like what the sentiment at the time was. There's not much, or even nowadays, because we know so much and we have access to so much information, we know so much about the world, it doesn't seem like there's much mystery left. But he thinks that The Prestige is actually saying, well, this technology is basically magic to you. It might as well be. You couldn't tell me how this light bulb turns on, and that's basically as mysterious as this man that's able to clone himself and teleport. And maybe that's possible one day too. So that's basically magic. So he's just saying that the new technology, or technology itself, doesn't demystify, it mystifies. And that was a cool interpretation, and that was my answer to your question. It's a long spiel.
But as in, does that? So would that person qualify as a film critic whose opinions you respect?
I don't know, man. Like I heard it. It sounded cool. He's got proof. It's an evidence-backed claim. Sure. I don't follow film critics really like that. I listen to the Sardonicast podcast. I listen to Alexei Toliopoulos. But I don't really follow them too much. I don't really listen to too many film critics personally. Not diligently and consistently. Like, yeah.
Right, we need to move the fuck on to Eyes Wide Shut.
Ben, I've been talking a lot. Matt introduced the last one. Give us an intro for Eyes Wide Shut.
Okay. So completely off the cuff. 1999, Eyes Wide Shut. This will end up being Kubrick's final ever film. It stars Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman, and various other famous actors. But yeah, those two are the stars. It opens with them going to a party, a ball of some sorts, at a rich friend's house. And there's not too much to say about the party itself. But anyway, they get back and they're just about to make love to each other. And Nicole Kidman's character reveals to Tom Cruise that actually a number of years ago she had a fantasy about a US Navy officer who happened to be staying in the same hotel as them. And even though no cheating occurred, it was purely a fantasy. This is something that plays on Tom Cruise's mind from that moment onwards for pretty much the entire film. And the film essentially follows Tom Cruise and the way he behaves in response to discovering about this fantasy of his wife's. And we see the various things he gets up to or doesn't get up to, just as important as the things he does get up to. And yeah, that is pretty much how I describe the film.
Good job. Off the dome.
Matt, what are your thoughts on Eyes Wide Shut?
I liked Eyes Wide Shut a fair amount. What did I think of it? I don't know, man. My entire thoughts have been with the conspiracy theories around this movie, and I find it so obnoxious. But I want to do that at the end because I'm probably just gonna rant for like five minutes straight about it. But yeah, I mean, as a movie, it was just cool. It's definitely about some things. Tom Cruise is a funny fucking actor. I feel like Tom Cruise was doing a lot of Jack Nicholson line reads in this film. Did anyone else find that? Like some of the, like when he's like, "You're stoned." You want to like, I can't remember. I'll put the clip in that I'm thinking about. But in that scene, it's so Jack Nicholson. He's like, you've got stoned tonight, and now you're trying to make me jealous."
I thought the funniest lines, and now I think about it, I wouldn't say Jack Nicholson like lines, but it was I thought it just came out of nowhere when Nicole Kidman was saying something like, "You're squeezing your little titties."
Yeah.
For those of you that are listening, just pause this podcast right now. Go and watch that scene on YouTube. It is a phenomenal scene of two of the best actors in our generation just acting their asses off. It's so funny. It's really well done. Fantastic. Phenomenal, yeah. Yeah, sorry, go on, Ben. That scene is hilarious.
Well, that's pretty much all I had to say about that scene. But Matt, any other thoughts before we move on to Haroon about Eyes Wide Shut?
I mean, the thoughts, I don't want to go too deep into them yet. I'd rather it come out in discussion more about the themes. I don't want to just like list off what I think it's about. So yeah, I'd like to hear from Haroon first.
Because you're a fan of Kubrick, aren't you, Haroon? Would you regard this guy as one of your favourite directors?
I'd like to overlay just this Snoop Dogg meme of "He Don't Miss." If we could just overlay that over here, just type in Snoop Dogg "He Don't Miss" over this, and that's basically how I feel about Stanley Kubrick, because he just doesn't miss. He just doesn't seem to miss ever. It's just 10, 10, 10, 10. Like every movie I've seen, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. So yeah, this would be the 5th movie I've seen from him, and it's just perfect, isn't it? There's just I couldn't think of an improvement to make personally, and I just loved every second of it. And yeah, I'll read some of my notes. So these are my notes in order. Seems normal. They're a good-looking couple. Beautiful lights. So immersive. What the fuck? But I love it. Song. Tom Cruise has never been high. Bathroom blue light pose. Color. Power dynamic. But yeah, I didn't actually write down as much as I did for The Prestige, because this movie sort of like speaks for itself. I was going to ask you, Ben, what you thought of the party itself. What do you think that is?
So it's quite weird with this film because I loved it. Like from literally within the opening seconds, I don't know what it was. I can't actually describe it that well.
It's very trance like.
Yeah, it's entrancing. It's a very what's this? What's it called? Hypnotic, incredibly hypnotic. So when they're at that first party, what really gets me is the closeness of all of these actors, how intimate everything feels, and all of the dialogue and the incredible acting that's going on to make you fall for everything. There's so much closeness that's happening. That you're just pulled straight into it, because you're essentially you see Tom Cruise and you see Naomi Campbell, Nicole Kidman, You see Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise, and they're a married couple, and they go off, and they seem to be like being unfaithful immediately to one another, which is strange, and so that sort of like definitely piques your interest. And then, but these long drawn out scenes of intimacy with other people.
Well, see, I just loved the entire thing, and you mentioned the lights, Haroon. That I think was one of the things that stood out to me the most. Every single place they go, lamps everywhere, left, right, and centre. And there was a really lovely effect when Tom Cruise is speaking to, I can't remember his name, but it's the elderly guy who's hosting the party that he and Nicole Kidman go to at the beginning, and he goes to his pool room or snooker room, whatever you want to call it. And there's this really nice shot. I think it happens multiple times when you've got Tom Cruise in the foreground, in the background, you've got the contrast between the lamps and this really nice shade of blue from the outside. And I don't know what it was. There was just something just so
Haunting, dreamlike, would you say?
You see,
Is that-
I'm not sure if dreamlike is the one that comes to mind, but there's just something so calming about the entire film. Even when he's in the house, even when somebody's urging him to leave because
I
his
was
life's in
stressed
danger.
out in that scene. I had.
Oh, see, the entire time I was just completely calm. Like there was something, I don't know, so soothing about this film, and I really
Because
can't
it's
put my
dream,
finger on
it's
it.
Do you know what scared me? So you know that scene when he's in the party and then those two masked figures look down on you. Oh, that scared me so much. That was so scary.
Yeah, okay, that part I thought, oh, that's a bit creepy.
So him not wearing the
but-
mask when he walked in the room. Like he put it on
Yeah,
when he
I-
got inside. I'm like, are you stupid?
Take off your clothes.
But yeah,
or we
it's
will
not really about
remove
that.
your clothes.
No, but it's weird because I don't want to speak too much about it in terms of what I thought the themes were, because I think with this film, the whole issue of like fantasy versus reality is obviously a big thing, and I don't think you
Yeah,
just
I'm
get
glad
that
you
from
picked that up.
the fact that. What was that?
I'm just saying, I'm glad you picked that up. You're not taking it as
She does say it at the end.
yeah.
Nicole Kidman
Let's
does.
fuck.
Sort of. No, not that. She's like she's talking about how like we've both come through this together, like something about dreams and reality. I can't remember. And
I
let's
thought
fuck. Yeah. What a great fucking ending.
I love it.
That's
I love
funny as well.
Stanley.
He's that old man doing that is so funny. Do you know what? It grosses me out in a way, in the same way that I sort of like side eye Scorsese for doing Wolf of Wall Street at his age. I'm like, you fucking pervert old man. I'm surprised it works. Sorry.
well, he's also religious, isn't he? Scorsese. I think that's what I find
Yeah,
especially
he's
surprising
big
about it.
Catholic. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
But
He
he's
loves that
definitely
crap.
really ambivalent about his religion too.
I mean, yeah. He
If you watch
questions
The
it a
Last
lot.
Temptation of Christ, you couldn't watch that and think, okay, this guy's a devout Catholic. No?
Mm,
No, I don't think so.
I haven't seen that film.
It's about Jesus. It's about what if Jesus were a bloke? And the answer is
Wasn't
he'd want
Jesus
to
a
fuck.
bloke?
Yeah, but like he's also a god. It was like, what if he was mostly a bloke?
Oh, do you mean like okay? Do you mean if he was like actual normal guy?
character study of what Jesus would be like as a human being. Like you wake up one day and God's talking in your ear and is like, "You're my son," and he's like, what the fuck?" Basically, great movie.
It's Willem Dafoe as Jesus Christ.
Willem,
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah,
what
that
fucking
really
amazing.
gets me. I find that so
It's-
funny.
And
So
Harvey Keitel's
good.
Judas with a New York accent. It's awesome. I'm gonna betray you.
Oh,
Oh, speaking of Harvey Keitel, he almost played Sidney Pollock's character.
Yes, yeah, but he walked out because he was what
Yeah,
the
'cause
30th
he
take.
was
and
made-
couldn't take
yeah.
it anymore.
Yeah,
I thought that was so funny.
Fair enough, man. Fair fucking enough. It sounds like hell being in a Kubrick movie.
Well, I think there was a scene in which Tom Cruise is just walking down the corridor into the kitchen, and I think Kubrick made him do that. The number 57 is ringing bells in my mind.
It's
I think it's
so
50
fucked.
something.
Do you know they lived in that
Yeah.
house as well? The set that the house was. Also, they filmed it in Pinewood Studios, which is
London.
near where I
Around the
live.
corner from where we lived.
It's where me and Haroon are
do one of
from.
you, just for the audience, want to talk about all of the insane things that went on in the background for this Kubrick movie regarding him sort of gaslighting Tom Cruise?
Yeah, I don't know a crazy amount about it, but yeah, he basically just psychologically tormented them. So you know, like all the sex scenes that Nicole Kidman's in, the fantasy in the film and stuff. So allegedly, he would just make the crew and Nicole and everyone be really secretive and not answer any questions that Tom Cruise had about it. Like keep him well away. Don't let him know what's going on. And so obviously just psychologically fucked with their real marriage that they had.
Yeah,
not
well, I
their
remember hearing a
divorce.
comment, somebody saying that apparently it almost ended their marriage. Is
Yeah,
that what
well,
you're referring to?
they got divorced 2 years later, but it is strongly suggested that it was a big part of it was this, and yeah, they had to live in that set and the shoot was 17 months, I think. I heard.
I don't know.
17 months.
The thing is,
Yeah.
like, I don't know if that really broke up their marriage. Obviously, this is just like,
There's a lot
gossip,
of
celebrity
there's a lot of
gossip.
this stuff around
But
Stanley Kubrick as well, with
There
like
is a lot
Shelley
of stuff around
Duvall as
Stanley
well.
Kubrick. However, Tom Cruise is like, or was at least, I think he's going away from it. He's a serious Scientologist, an actual crazy person, a real crazy person. If you watch him in some interviews, and Nicole Kidman ain't a crazy person. I don't think so. She doesn't come across as a crazy person, and that will probably be more some of the deep-rooted things that inevitably in their marriage, maybe that was going to come to an end. It is a celebrity marriage, just yeah. Back on track with this movie quickly. I obviously loved how, like, sometimes in movies you have to dig quite a lot, but sometimes you don't, and it's on the surface, but it's still like somehow as deep. So, for instance, in this movie, the Nicole Kidman talks about this fantasy of being with this sailor boy, and then Tom Cruise is like, I'm so upset by this. I'm gonna go and have my own fantasy, and then he creates this sort of revenge fantasy that's 1,000 times more potent and seductive and entrenched in even more secrecy, because like what hurt Tom Cruise so much, I think, was how deeply rooted this fantasy was within Nicole Kidman's mind for her having to bring this back so many years. Like, it's sort of this, what adds to the pain is how deep the secret was. The deeper the secret, and that on the reveal, the stronger that pain is going to be. And so he entrenched this sort of fantasy of this incredible, Illuminati sex cult in his own mind, where he feels like, does this get back at Nicole Kidman in a way? Does that make him feel like massively diluting his own pain from his wife's like fantasy?
It's also a lot about masculinity, which ties into this as well. Because the scene that stuck out for me is when he gets homophobed on the street and they call him some slurs, and I'm like, that is really. I was like, that's really like out there and random, and it's. Do
you think he was emasculated?
100%. Yeah, it's obviously he's been emasculated.
But in the movie, I guess he's emasculated as well a little bit, because they say that someone like you shouldn't even be doing this. Even though he's a doctor, he's still not up there with like the big playboys.
And that's the class part as well, where
there's a huge
there's all these levels of class that go up the film.
Yeah, because he is a doctor, but there's still so many classes above him, and he just doesn't belong.
Yeah,
there.
and he thinks he's sort of in the big leagues, but he really has no fucking clue.
Yeah, he's like, I'll pay you. He pays the prostitute. Cash. He's like, I'll give you the money anyway. And hey, cabbie, here, I'll tear up my 100.
The renting
I'll give you
thing.
50 now, 50 later. The renting thing as well. There's a lot of,
and they felt such small numbers as well. Like you're like, it's like a number that a not so wealthy person would think is a big number.
200 over the rent price. That might have been racist.
Oh yeah, I like the fact that they got the guy from Batman Begins who says, "Nice."
How?
Oh, is that him?
Good.
That's him.
That true?
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. Obviously, he's a monster that pimps out his own daughter, but he's a very good actor. That guy. I love him in that movie. Love him in everything I've seen him so far. Batman Begins and Eyes Wide Shut.
What a year for Tom Cruise. Magnolia and this.
Wow,
1999.
really?
Yeah, I just want to say something about this. I know you mentioned the thing about Scientology with Tom Cruise, but I think whatever he might do in his personal life, I think he's a very good actor. There isn't a single
He's
role that I've
one of
seen
the
him in
best.
that I've not been impressed with. I thought he was
I
great in Top
must
Gun Maverick.
admit,
I love him
I
in Mission Impossible.
yeah,
Magnolia, he's
sure.
incredible, and this is the same.
Yeah, I've only really appreciated. I came to appreciate him when we watched Magnolia, and now I just love him even more seeing him in Eyes Wide Shut. But I think I prefer him a lot more in Magnolia. I think that's
He's
sort of
better
his
in
magnum
Magnolia for
opus.
sure, for sure.
This is magnum
But he is
opus.
great. We should watch more Tom Cruise movies. We need to watch Color of Money. Oh god, I want to
We
watch
will
that
do,
movie.
Yeah.
we'll do the
So
Scorsese
bad.
And The
season.
Hustler.
We will do
Could
the
be back to
Scorsese
back.
season.
Yeah, true.
But
true,
is next
true.
season Tarantino
Scorsese.
season? Yeah.
I'd say so. I mean, Tarantino, he's only got
Yeah.
10. Scorsese has like 36 plus like
Can
20
we please do
documentaries or
Tarantino
something.
next instead of the 36?
Yeah, we should do.
100%.
Yeah, that's what
And
I'm
we
saying.
we need to compare the films that he does to all the ones that he allegedly steals from.
Yeah, agree.
Ooh,
Well,
maybe.
I,
It can be some
I'd
here,
say
some
so.
there. Some here, some there.
Because a lot of films that he allegedly steals from, I have never heard of until somebody mentions them.
yeah, but with him, it's not so much he takes stories or anything. It's just he's just heavily influenced. People call him like a sampler. Like he samples a lot of stuff. He's just heavily influenced by a lot of stuff that he's watched growing up, and it reflects in his work a lot.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, I find it quite annoying when people say that Tarantino, some people go so far as to call him a fraud, and when they provide their references, they essentially point to just some scenes in films. And like you said, Matt, I think of that as more inspiration than anything else.
Yeah, but it's a lot of one-to-one comparisons, but we will have to delve into that in 6 episodes time. However many fucking Nolan movies we got left. Should I do my conspiracy theory rant? Okay. So every single video I watched about this movie, everyone in the comments was just schizo posting so much like, oh my god, he tried to warn us, this was his confession. Stanley Kubrick, he exposed the Illuminati and they killed him for it. And there's all these rumors about 20 minutes being cut out, which isn't true as far as my research. I watched a video of, I think that the editor or some person heavily involved in the movie. They were like, yeah, the thing that the studio made us change was we had to digitally add in a bunch of extras in the orgy scene to obscure it more because we didn't want like a NC-17 rating. Anyway, so all these posts are like, oh my god, the fucking Illuminati, he exposed them, they killed him. And it actually blows my mind how people can just not think any step, like 2 steps ahead. So this movie is based off a novel from 1926, which is beat for beat the same plot, right? Exactly the same plot. Apart from the scene, well, I only read the fucking Wikipedia synopsis, so maybe this isn't it. But the scene where the guy's like, "Yeah, I'm in the group. Just go away," basically, whatever. Was it Simon Pollock? So first of all, it's not, he didn't write this movie. Second of all, he's been trying to make the film for 30 years at the point that he gets it made. So that's pitching to the studio. No one has a problem then, right? 30 years later, when he finally does get it made, he obviously has to go to the studio with a fucking script, which is approved by the Illuminati studio, and let go into production with all these A-list celebrities who we know that there's weird fucking nonce parties. We know that's going on, right? P. Diddy's, that's all going on right now. We're learning all about that. We know that's real, but there doesn't have to be a grand conspiracy involving this movie, which is barely even about this sex party and is more a character study, or is it character? It's a meditation on a bunch of themes, and the sex party is merely the dressing that allows us to view the psyche of these characters. And so if the Illuminati has the power to kill Stanley Kubrick and edit 20 minutes out of the film, why the fuck would they stop there? Why would they not pull it from release, botch the release, get it a tiny release? Disney, through their relationship with a certain country, got a Martin Scorsese movie buried fucking deep. about the Dalai Lama. You can't buy it. You can buy it. You can find an Italian DVD on Amazon, and that's it. You can't buy it anywhere. You can't legally purchase it. You can only pirate it. It was such a small release because a certain country didn't want a movie negatively portraying them from Disney, and so we know that those with power can fucking bury a movie. So why did the Illuminati release this movie, re-release it in 2019, do an HD remaster, and all these? It's so stupid. These people are so stupid. Anyway, that's my rant about the Illuminati.
Yeah, conspiracy theorists.
I
are
have
nut
absolutely
jobs.
nothing to add to that.
I don't.
I just
really
needed to
either.
get that out there.
Neither of
People
us
get
believe in
caught up with
conspiracy.
like. No, I know it's for my own, because it's all I fucking saw online. Like I just watched
How is that all you
reviews
saw?
about it, because I just typed in like Eyes Wide Shut review, apart from the Commode one, but the other ones were just like, 7 details, some blah 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 blah, hidden messages, and all the comments are just like, oh my god, guys, he exposed the Illuminati. Like, oh, it's exciting, I'm sure, to be like, oh, there's a grand conspiracy. They're trying to hide. I'm not meant to see this. Sorry, $60 million were put into this. It's not a fucking secret, is it? Secret Eyes Wide Shut movie. Fucking the Illuminati are the most useless cunts in the world if they couldn't get this film.
Only 60 million for Eyes Wide Shut. That was the budget.
Something like that. Something like that, yeah.
That's fantastic. I thought it'd be at least
Sus.
100. But, yeah.
Movies used to be
Alright.
cheaper.
Well, thanks for
end.
that, Matt. Resident conspiracy theorist debunker, but also
Yeah.
conspiracy theorist
Consider this
participator.
debunked.
I have more to add to all of these movies, but I could talk all day because I think they're all fantastic, except for F for Fake. We're running a tad long, but this is me sort of signing. Are we good to sign off, guys?
I don't have anything else to say. Oh, let's do ratings, because we need to get the number that will anger us all. Let me go first. I'm going to go first. We're going to go Prestige. I'll stick with 10 because Haroon does 10. We're going to go 9 out of 10. F for Fake. Yeah, 8 out of 10. I liked it a lot. I found it charming. Cool. Give me stuff to think about. And Eyes Wide Shut might just be a 10. But I'd like to watch it again. But for now, I think it's going 10.
I thought The
Numbers.
Prestige was a 10 out of 10. I thought like there were problems with it. I don't know. My brain wants to say it's a masterpiece, but I don't really know what that means. But I just thought The Prestige was incredible. I've spoken about it a lot. There's a lot you can get out of it. A lot to extract. I thought it was Nolan's most personal movie so far, and loved it. Thought F for Fake was a very interesting movie, sort of genreless, or a new genre in and of itself. But frankly, it was just it's very boring, and that might just be like TikTok, Instagram brain of mine not being able to be patient. But I just didn't really enjoy it that much, unfortunately. I think it gives you a lot to think about, especially in relation to The Prestige. But if you're out there not watching The Prestige along with this, I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, so I'm probably going to give it I want to give it a 7 because there's substance to it. There's a lot of substance, but it's boring. But there's so much substance to it, Ben.
Quick offshoot. Did you guys think it was really nice to look at? There was that one scene where he's like in the park with like all the trees and they're like shadowy. I thought that was so
There's
beautiful.
a
Anyway,
lot of
that's
really
all I
cool
need to say.
cinematography, definitely. Yeah, and then Eyes Wide Shut's a 10 out of 10. Another, you don't miss. This Kubrick guy doesn't miss. It's a wonderful piece of filmmaking. He does these incredibly long scenes that should be boring if another filmmaker was doing it, because the tension is always like you could cut the tension with a knife in all of these scenes. Like it's always so encapsulating that it's just phenomenal. Love the performances too, so that's another 10 from me. Over to you, Ben.
Yeah, probably the easiest 10 I could ever give Stanley Kubrick, given that with those other films, I've never fallen in love with them. Well, full stop. And this one I actually did straight away. Same with The Prestige, I think. And I think that's only one of 2 Nolan films I could possibly give a 10 to. Orson Welles' F for Fake. I didn't get anything from it. I didn't learn anything. I found it very boring. But I guess it was produced. It was eventually constructed, so for that, I'll give it a 2 out of 10.
But we speak about it afterwards, and do you not get much from like our discussions of the movie? Does that not boost it for you retrospectively?
No, I don't think so.
See, it should.
And that's not that's not. Should I say it's not to your detriment? I don't think the film's got an awful lot going for it, and I think what you have is this really self-indulgent director who can do what he wants at that stage in life. You know, he's made Citizen Kane, he's made The Third Man, which has returned to cinema soon, by the way, and I do intend to watch it. And yeah, I think he's engaging. This is his megalopolis, let's just say. And I just didn't care for it because it just didn't do anything for me. Didn't enlighten me, didn't entertain me, and frustrated me, frankly, given the lack of economy when it came to what it was they were communicating. So yeah.
All right.
What film are we doing next week?
Hello, me again. We're not actually going to be doing a Nolan film versus another next week, given that it's October month and given that all three of us like horror films and Matt usually watches one horror film per night in October. We decided to do a couple of spooky season episodes. The first one of which is going to be Nosferatu versus Bram Stoker's Dracula. So, just sort of let you know in case you got a slight scare when you saw that and not a Nolan episode. Cheers, see you then. Hope you enjoyed this episode as well as all the others.